Okay, so we're getting very, very close to travel time right now. So I kind of wanted to show everyone how you do this, basically, and how you pack up 2 years worth of stuff into basically a go bag and a big bag. I know that other people call them other things, but what I'm going to do, I have both my old setup here and my new setup that I'm going to show you. So yeah, I'm going to reposition the camera and then we'll get into exactly like what you need to think about when it comes to that, and then how to actually do it. Okay, I will catch you in about 2 seconds. Okay, so this is my old setup, and basically it is a 65 litre bag, which is the main bag. This is the main bag. You usually have two when you go travelling. So you usually have a big bag that's the one that goes in the hold, and then inside the big bag you travel around with what's called a go bag, which is a smaller bag that you take with you, and that's the ones that you use for kind of day-to-day trips and stuff like that. Now this one I used to carry around with me all the time is waterproof. So basically I could put anything in it. I could go on like boat trips, I could do like hikes and things, and if it did start absolutely bucking it down with rain, we're fine. The problem with this particular kind of go bag though, and the limitations of this, is number one, it's basically a tube, right? When it's actually, its actual shape isn't the shape of a backpack or anything like that. It's basically a big, like, yeah, it's spherical at the bottom, so it's a bit like a giant wine cooler, right? Like it isn't designed to, you couldn't put a laptop in it, right? It wouldn't fit, it wouldn't work. You can't put anything that can't touch each other in it. It's not a backpack in that way, or even though it can go on your back and it has straps for it, that's not what it was designed for. It was designed for water sports, or at least for sort of diving and that kind of thing, which is not really what I need my go bag to be doing. So that's the first limitation. The second limitation of this particular kind of bag is the straps. So especially if you're traveling around Southeast Asia, having open straps like this at the back that can't be tied up or wrapped up easily becomes very, very difficult to travel, especially especially national flights, so not international flights, but flights that fly from one part of the country to another. Very often they want you to wrap these up, and then what they'll do is they'll wrap this whole thing in cling film over and over and over and over again, which becomes a pain to open, but also is terrible for the planet. If you actually are a little bit conscious about eco-friendliness, it's really bad. Then they have to do that to hundreds and hundreds of bags. And the other issue with this particular setup is that it's obviously a big bag, right? It's one singular bag that's 65 litres worth of stuff. And when you're having to carry a go bag in there, this takes up space. So even though you've got extra 5 litres of stuff there, all it takes is 3 things like this, and suddenly all of that volume is gone. So basically it's a good setup, and it served me really well for several years. But it's not the setup that I'm going to be using this time. This time I have a brand new setup. So this bag can just go over here, and boom. Now I know a lot of you are thinking, okay, it's still got loads of straps everywhere, what's the big difference? So there are a couple of big differences here, specifically for this kind of bag. Number one, yes, it has a huge amount of straps at the back, and they are all over the place. However, what it has is a cover that it comes with. Let me open this up. It's a cover that is zipped, contains zips that go straight up. So now all of those straps and everything that's there can immediately be zipped away. Gone. Right, so that's all covered. It's now a lot less dangly. There's a lot less stuff coming off of it. It doesn't have to be wrapped up in plastic. It's covered. That's the first thing. The second thing is the go bag, right? So the main bag here covers 60 litres, but this actual setup contains more space in total than the previous setup, because it also has an extra 20 litres of space attached to it, placed in the go bag, which is actually this front bit here. So this front bit let me show you. This front bit here comes off and is its own separate backpack that you can then just carry around, take with you on days out, all of that. Admittedly, it's not waterproof, but it's a bag. It's a small bag that I can go with. So instead of me needing to lug this big one around or take up space in here by having something like this being in it, that covers me. So it's a really, really nice setup. It's not the cheapest setup in the world. It's clearly been well thought through by the people that produce it. But I'm going to give it a go. I've never used it before in my life. So this will be obviously the first time I've ever tried this. It could be a colossal failure, right? I do not profess that this is a tried and tested model, right? It could turn out that I try this and absolutely hate it. It's also not the easiest thing to put back together. There we go. And now it's all back in one piece. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I need to go through is kind of how you actually pack everything up. Let me reposition this so you've got me in shot a bit more. There we go. So how do we actually go about packing everything up? You have to kind of start to think about things a little bit differently to how you would think about them before. For example, I have quite a lot of books. Now I can look at books as books. Give me 1 second, let me just straighten this out. There we go. I've said straighten out and it's got even wonkier. 1 moment, there we go. So I can think about books as books, right, as physical objects of books, or they're text files, right? They sit on my computer as a text file. I either have the book for the status symbol of having the book, or I have it because of the knowledge it contains, in which case it's just as valuable to me as a text file. I, generally speaking, don't have books as status symbols, right? But I do have books because of the information that's in them, and it's useful, practical in everyday life. The same goes for, you know, your DVDs, your CDs, your most of the storage in here, to be honest with you. Most of what takes up the space is just things that contain information. The things that don't contain information, that are just here as items, are things like clothing, right? Now, again, I've got 80 litres worth of space in this setup. Realistically, though, I only want to be using about 45 litres of it for clothing. However, 45 litres of clothing, pretty much enough clothing for a human being to have, you know, without needing to do any laundry for probably a month, right? Provided that I'm only provided that I'm changing once a day, you know, and not changing several times a day, probably got enough space, you know. Now, if you take into account that I am going to be washing clothes, and I'm not going to be, you know, building up a wash for 1 month's worth of clothing and then doing it, I realistically only need maybe a week's worth of clothes, you know, maybe 5 days worth of clothes on a turnover. So if you think about that, 5 t-shirts, 5 shorts, or jeans, or trousers, some kind of cloth covering of the long half, you know, pairs of underwear, socks, couple of hoodies. Like, we're really not talking much space to be taken up there. So that's the first thing. The second thing is things like jewellery. Again, takes up no space whatsoever. After that, you've then got technology. Now, if anyone's followed my previous videos, the setup that I have means that I'm using the same charger for my phone, my earbuds, and my computer. So I've got one uniform charger that covers everything, and I've got 3 devices, right? A laptop, which is very small and light, it's a MacBook M1 Air. I've got these, which are my Jabra earphones. Again, take up no space whatsoever. That can go in a pocket. And then I have my phone, which also, again, lives in a pocket. So we're talking about very little space being taken up by the tech side. And aside from that, I'm pretty much covered. A towel, toiletries, all of that kind of stuff, yes, but they're disposables. So I could try and take them with me, but I'm not going to get them through, you know, airport security in anything that's going on my back and going into the main compartment. This, you know, also, by the way, can split, so stuff can go in the hold and go on my back and in. Again, you can't really do that with a waterproof, but we can, but it's weird. It's a weird bag. But yeah, you're not going to be taking toiletries really, because you'll buy them when you're there. Towels can do. They do take up quite a lot of space. Again, they take up a good about 5 to 10 litres worth of space, so they are taking up a chunk of what you have there. I know people are going, no, it doesn't take anywhere near that much. try it. Just do it. You'll see they do. So you know, if you were talking about swimming trunks and all of that side, yes, absolutely. But again, we're talking about no space whatsoever here. So realistically, this entire setup is going to cover my entire life, and cover everything that's in this room. You know, even things like the whiteboard. That whiteboard there could just as easily be a desktop for my computer. You know, it doesn't need all of this gunk and gumph, I don't know to call it, that's around there. You know, the only other thing that's worth me thinking about. I mean, this camera setup, for example. This camera is my phone. That's all I use is now my phone. The phone cameras are very, very advanced now. They're very very much good enough to take not just 4K. Some of them are taking 8K video. They're good enough to cover all of my needs here. So yeah, it's not really. I mean, I know we think about it in terms of reduction and reducing down and getting rid of stuff, but realistically, all of the knowledge that's contained in this room, which is the main thing that this room has, right? It's an office slash bedroom, right? All of the knowledge here is easily transferred onto a computer. It exists in PDF form in any case. I could have bought all of these books as PDF form. I just didn't, right? So now they're on there. They're already there. All of them are in PDF form on the computer, every single one. All of the videos and DVDs. The only games is the other thing as well. So a lot of in this room, there's a lot of old retro games that are stored. Now the value of a retro game is the fact that it is actually its objective value, the value of the object that it has. Again, though, if I was getting the value from playing the game, easily transferred onto a computer. The object value here would have been to sell them, but then they're probably not going to be sold. They're probably just going to sit here. Or they will be sold because this whole room is being renovated when I leave. It's going changed, it's being gone. So a lot of stuff, will just be disappear. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything. I'm just trying to think of any other things that are inside this space that I've been here for 2 years that is worth talking about. Not really, to be honest with you. That's pretty much it. It's one of the things that you get used to doing when you are traveling so much. And before the pandemic, I did 7 seasons, right, abroad. So that was 7 times, no, more than that, 14 times. I had to completely pack up my life and move abroad. And in the in-between spaces, I was doing things that was particularly nomadic. You get very used to living life, right? You get very used to living in very small, materially small spaces and materially small living. And I think it's pretty good actually to be able to do that. I know a lot of people talk about digital nomadism, horrible word, but they talk about it as terrible for the environment or doing all this traveling and all that stuff. But actually, if you think about the material costs that you have when you live in one space, your car, your the amount of central heating, your blah, blah, all of that stuff that comes out, the building of very large constructions and very large spaces, the sheer amount of gunk that you end up buying and throwing away and buying again and throwing away and buying again, that just doesn't really happen with digital nomads. When we buy new clothing, for example, like hell, this t-shirt is probably about 10 years old. Like that kind of thing doesn't really happen. The materialism side of it sort of dissipates a bit. I think the most I spend on is food, if anything. It's a bit obvious, but yeah, I think if you actually did the pound for pound value in terms of how much is lost or to the environment by digital nomads against those that decide to make everything come to them, is probably about even. If you really think about it, if I'm going to eat an avocado, if I travelled to the place where they're grown as an individual, or if en masse I get every single one flown to me, if I go there, the journey is only happening once, and then I'm there and I'm eating it. If I'm getting them thrown to me every single week, it's a different game, right? So you have to think about these things in both directions. But anyway, we've gone massively tangential. The the main point of this video was to kind of talk about setups and how you do that. And yeah, digitize and digitalize the things that you can do. That will be probably the bulk of what you have. And then everything else that you can do, you know, reduce down to what do I need within the week, or what do I need within the month. You know, and when I say need, I mean need. So I foundationally need a computer for my job. I need a phone to be able to contact people again for my job. I need I need these so that I can actually hear audio tracks and hear video because of how I work. So that's a requirement. I need to be able to go and do those things. I need clothing, right? I need to be able to charge all of my devices, and outside of that, pretty much it. like my accommodation is going to be sorted for me. Like I said, towels and that kind of thing. Again, I can either get them there, or I can take the hit and carry my favourite towel with me. But yeah, outside of that, it's not much is needed. So yeah, that's pretty much going to be the end of this blog post. Anything I've missed, let me know. Let me know in the comments if you think there's actually any other essentials that you would say absolutely you need to bring that. Actually, I've just thought of one that is a crucial one, which is medication. So there are two sides to this. Obviously, if your medication is hard to get, and you're going to be in a place for a long time, then make sure that you can get hold of that medication in the place where you're going to be traveling. Or make sure that you've got enough of it to cover that entire period and it doesn't go off and isn't just, all that side of things. For me, my medication is very easy, right? My medication is Ventolin. It's an inhaler, which is almost uniformly piss easy to get hold of. You can get them pretty much anywhere across the whole of the continent, Europe. You can definitely get them in Thailand. You can definitely get them in China. You can definitely get them, everywhere, basically. So that usually isn't an issue. But I also double that up by having a load of inhalers everywhere. So I think I've got a surplus of inhalers of about 10 of them, if you calculated all of them up. Because they're everywhere, not just the one that's in my pocket all the time. I've got spares, I've got extras. As well as having spares and extras with, in places where I know I'm always going to be. So yes, there is one in the kitchen, there is one in the living room, there is an extra one in the car, there is an extra one, all these places. So if I ever find myself, and oh God, it's gone, or oh God, this one's suddenly empty and I'm on, it's on the M1, for example, and this one's empty, I have another one that's right there that's never really used, but it's an emergency backup. So that's what goes on, in this bag as well. I need to then have enough space to carry enough medication to be my backups. And obviously I have clearly two compartments in this bag, this setup, which is the go bag and the main bag. So there will be inhalers in both, right? To make sure, it's just making sure, doubling up, tripling up. So that's on the medication side, which is worth bearing in mind and thinking about. But again, what's the space of an inhaler takes up? I mean, we're literally talking. I think they're already in here, to be honest with you. Yeah, we're talking that much space, right? It's nothing. It's I think I've got 4 of them in here right now. There's no difficulty in doing this. They take up no space. They cause no issues. I'm just thinking if there's any other points that could have been missed, but I don't think there is. So yeah. That's pretty much it. If there is anything else, as I said, let me know in the comments below and we'll go from there. But yeah, I will be packing up and getting ready to go any day now, which is getting very, very exciting. And I will video all of that and show it to you. Perfect.